Thank you, Madam Acting Deputy President. I rise this afternoon to call on the Federal Minister, Mr Hunt, to immediately stop the Maules Creek coal mine in New South Wales. February the 15th marks what will be an act of ecological vandalism and economic stupidity. It is of national significance, as we have in New South Wales Whitehaven Coal, with the full blessing of New South Wales Premier Mike Baird, the Leader of the Opposition Luke Foley, together with Prime Minister Abbott and Mr Shorten and no doubt Mr Turnbull, the whole lot of them, keen to recommence smashing down the critically endangered white box gum Leard State Forest and to destroy the habitat of at least 396 species of plants and animals, ranging from owls and koalas, birds, bats, parrots, and of course the bat species are renowned in that particular area. We've got, of those species, 34 that are threatened species, including 3 that are critically endangered. And the number is so high because they're dependent on the box gum woodland, of which only 0.1% survives nationally. And I'll say that again, 0.1% of this vegetation type survives nationally, and yet the Premier of New South Wales, the Leader of the Opposition in New South Wales, the Labor Party, think it's fine to go and smash down that remnant vegetation. Now, the Department of Premier and Cabinet in New South Wales has recognised this forest as having irreplaceable, ecologically unique values. But it took a Land and Environment Court case to stop winter clearing, but now they're about to start again. Now, I have heard endlessly from the Prime Minister and Treasurer Hockey that we must not be stealing from future generations. Well, if there is one thing that they are stealing from future generations, it is critically endangered habitat, plants and animals, and of course a safe climate. Because it's hard to believe the stupidity, the backwardness, the ignorance of knocking down the Leard State Forest to build a coal mine in an age of global warming when the coal should be staying in the ground. That is the fact of the matter. That coal needs to stay in the ground. We cannot afford to burn that coal because of the climate. And yet we have got this ridiculous situation where we are going to lose this critically endangered vegetation type. We are going to see sites of cultural significance to the Gomeroi people. We're going to see precious water resources all wasted, and all to facilitate what has been a corruptly approved, and I'll say that again, corruptly approved Whitehaven coal mine. It's likely to not only be a disaster ecologically, but it is likely to be an economic disaster as well. Now, what we are seeing is the only thing that stands behind future generations actually being able to enjoy this forest, to know that this threatened vegetation community can remain, the plants and animals that it supports. The only thing that is standing there preventing this intergenerational theft is the community. And I really want to pay respect today and give absolute encouragement to people who've been prepared to stand there in Maules Creek and put themselves on the line. And they've done that. There have been more than 250 people arrested there. We've got alliances like the Leard State Forest Alliance, the Frontline Action on Coal. We've had all conservation groups out there, and we have had incredible support from people as varied as Bill Ryan, for example, who's 92 years old. He was a veteran of the Kokoda Trail. You've got Cliff Wallace, who is a property owner there, who has facilitated and helped the protesters be able to make the stand that they have. You've had the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, lead author Colin Butler arrested there, and of course former Wallabies captain David Pocock as well. These people, all of them, have made a major stand for the forest, for the environment, for the climate and against corruption. And what we're going to see is more of those people putting their lives on the line this weekend and calling out the Baird government in New South Wales and the Abbott government federally, because all of this should not be happening because it was all corruptly approved. And now we find that Whitehaven is trying to squirm out of even the minimal biodiversity corridor, saying, quote, it presents a material risk to the project's success and the company can't accept it. So this is how marginal this coal mine is, that they are saying that they can't even meet the minimal biodiversity corridor because it jeopardises the project. Well, the fact is the project is jeopardised anyway because there has been a complete collapse in the coal price globally, and that is going to continue. There is a structural change here. It is not going to recover. And we're going to see the stupidity of smashing down the Leard Forest to put in a coal mine which will never be viable. And I want to come back to just what a disgrace this is in a country like ours. People pride themselves in Australia and look at other countries and say, look at the corruption that goes on there, and they never recognise that the corruption goes on here just as much. And in fact it has been even worse in New South Wales. And I just want to go to that in terms of the offsets. The offsets, and my colleague Senator Waters will talk about this a bit later, the offsets never ever offset the critical vegetation type, and yet it was approved. And I make the point that it was former Labor Party Environment Minister Tony Burke who approved it, but they're up to their neck in it in New South Wales and the approval by the Liberals. And I just want to say that there should have been a judicial inquiry. When ICAC got right into what had happened, they found that Nathan Tinkler was central to a series of corrupt dealings in New South Wales, and it involved this mine. There were political donations to the Liberal and National parties, and never has there been a proper investigation into what actually went on. And it just is totally disgraceful. You can't believe that in this day and age that this mine was not stopped the minute that they found out that it had been corruptly approved. But there was a whole series of events. Donations went from Aston Resources, Boardwalk Resources, Chris Harcher, Free Enterprise Foundation, eventually the New South Wales Liberal Party, and then the ministers in New South Wales assisted in various approvals. Now, what sort of corrupt behaviour is that? And now a whole community has to fight for their land, for their water, for the biodiversity, for their forest. Why should they have to do that? And it's even more shocking that a former leader of the National Party and former Deputy Prime Minister of Australia, Mark Vaile, is the chair of Whitehaven Resources. This really sends an appalling signal to people around the country. Get yourself involved in corrupt dealings, hand over the cash in back rooms, prohibited donations, get it through things like the Free Enterprise Foundation, absolutely hide it from the public gaze, get it through to the Liberal Party, and you'll get it back in terms of your approvals. And the Labor Party is not exempt from this, as the Obeid case shows, the cases show in New South Wales. This should have been stopped. This should have been stopped by a proper judicial inquiry, and the corruption goes on to this day. The fact that Mike Baird, the Premier of New South Wales, could stand there last week opening this mine, saying what a great thing it is, just shows you the extent to which corruption has just seeped into the body politic of New South Wales. The Greens are going to stand with that community. The Greens are going to stand with everyone in New South Wales who turns out in Maules Creek to stop the destruction of the Leard Forest and the commencing of the logging that will start there and the bulldozing of that forest as it continues, because the people there deserve to have decent democratic representation that is honest and transparent and not corrupt. But we and the next generations have to do what we can to save critically endangered species as that Leard Forest is. And if Minister Hunt was really a minister for the environment, he would step in and say now he will not be a party to final federal approval of the plan that will see Whitehaven go broke after having destroyed the environment. I wish everyone who turns out this weekend to stop this destruction the very best of luck. We stand with you and we will articulate this in the Senate.
Thank you, Senator Milne.